If you lose the breakdown, you lose the game. It's the oldest adage in rugby, and last weekend it proved devastatingly true. 11 years of World Cup dominance by New Zealand shattered by a Canadian team that didn't just win the breakdown, they revolutionized it. And while the Red Roses navigated their own brutal semi-final against France, they were exposed and tested in ways that raise serious questions about their ability to handle the coming storm. This is it, the 2025 Women's Rugby World Cup final, England versus Canada. The weight of expectation versus the power of belief. Welcome back to Rugby from the Stands. What a phenomenal weekend of rugby we've seen. The semi-finals delivered everything: drama, tactical brilliance, and one of the greatest semi-finals we've ever witnessed. We're diving deep into the stats, analyzing the revolutionary ruck speed Canada is bringing to the table, and looking at the key players like Sophie de Goody and England's centre Meg Jones. And I'll give you my prediction. And this time, I'm trusting my gut, because this feels like more than just a rugby match. We have to start by acknowledging the magnitude of this event. This World Cup has been a game changer. The viewership numbers are off the charts. The stadiums are packed, and the quality of rugby is absolutely elite. The atmosphere at the grounds has been incredible. The final at Twickenham is sold out. The atmosphere is going to be absolutely electric, and it's the perfect final matchup. You have the Red Roses, the benchmark of professionalism, who are the favorites. And then on the other side, you have Canada, the team that has captured the hearts of the world, playing with a joy and a speed that is infectious. But the semi-finals were incredibly revealing. They showed us the vulnerabilities of the favorites and the revolutionary tactics of the challengers. Before we look ahead to the final, we have to look back at how they got here, because the blueprints for victory were drawn last weekend. Let's start with England's 35-17 victory over France. Don't let the scoreline fool you. This was not a comfortable afternoon for the Red Roses. France turned up with a specific strategy designed to disrupt the English structure, and it worked brilliantly in the first half. Watching that game, it was clear that France found a way to create space against England, something teams haven't managed in years. How did they do it? They injected chaos into the game. They didn't allow England to set their defensive line. Their wingers were constantly roaming, showing up in midfield, creating overlaps and numerical advantages on the edges. The work rate required to do this is immense. But it showed that if you move the point of attack rapidly, the Red Roses' defense can be stretched. France just couldn't finish. They created the opportunities, but too often they forced the miracle offload instead of recycling and going again. But this match was vital for England. They needed that test. While the performance looked sticky at times, the crucial takeaway is how England responded. To their credit, they didn't panic. However, the blueprint is now out there. Canada will have watched that tape meticulously. They will see how France created space, and Canada, statistically, is much better equipped to finish those opportunities. Now let's talk about the match that shook the rugby world. Well, it wouldn't have shook you if you've actually seen our team introductions series on this channel, but for the rest of the world, it seemed like a bit of a surprise. It is quite disrespectful to Canada by the majority of the media as well, who kept calling them dark horses. They're literally the second placed team in the world right now. They're not a dark horse. They're one of the favorites to win, but that's besides the point. Well, let's get back to the game of Canada versus the Black Ferns, where Canada scored 34, Black Ferns 19. The six-time world champions were not just beaten, they were tactically dismantled. The Black Ferns are known for their ability to overcome slow starts because they usually dominate the defensive breakdown, slowing the opposition ball down. But Canada completely negated that. This victory by Canada was built on tactical brilliance and phenomenal fitness. Canada played with such an up-tempo, almost helter-skelter pace that requires an incredible engine, and they never slowed down. It all comes down to the ruck. We know from the tournament stats that both teams are completing 45% of their rucks in under 2 seconds. But in the semifinals, Canada was operating at 1.5-second ruck speed, and they were doing it consistently. Let's break down why this is revolutionary. A 1.5-second ruck is too fast for an organized defense to set, leaving the defense constantly caught in a state of confusion, unable to set and unable to effectively contest the breakdown. And here's a crucial stat from the game that really highlights their dominance. Breakdown steals, Canada had 4, New Zealand had 0. This tells us that Canada wasn't just playing fast, they were accurate, and they were dominant on both sides of the breakdown. They won the collision, they recycled with blistering speed, and when they defended, they secured the turnovers. The way they attacked was fascinating. It wasn't complex, it was direct. Looking at the deeper stats, Canada's carry-to-pass ratio against New Zealand was nearly 1-to-1. This isn't a team playing wide rugby. This is the team playing direct, pick and go, strong direct carries, play to an edge, and then another direct carry. They're generating momentum through sheer speed and physicality, creating unstructured play that they thrive in. And they were clinical. New Zealand, despite having 11 opportunities in the 22, they only converted 27% of them. Canada operated at a 50% conversion rate. They combined revolutionary speed with ruthless efficiency. We saw incredible individual efforts from the Black Ferns. One player, Kaipo Olsen Baker, had an astonishing 34 carries for nearly 300 meters, but even that wasn't enough to break the Canadian momentum. The question for the final is simple. How does England stop this? Let's look at the overall tournament data. It highlights this clash of styles, but Canada's recent performance adds a new dimension. England is the clinical machine. 283 points scored, 43 tries. Their efficiency is remarkable. Crucially, look at the conversions. England 34, Canada 22. England maximizes their points when they get into the scoring zone. While Canada was efficient against New Zealand, their tournament kicking stats are still a bit of a concern. But how they attack is very different. Let's look at the ball in hand metrics. Canada dominates here. They have 764 carries to England's 554. This supports that direct 1-to-1 carry to pass ratio we saw in the semifinal. They've made 3,224 meters to England's 2,750, and they've beaten 143 defenders compared to England's 103. And the most defining statistic? Offloads. Canada have offloaded 78 times in the World Cup, England 30. So Canada plays with speed, power, and continuity. They want chaos. Now let's look at the defense. This is England's bedrock, a 92% tackle completion rate, which is world class. Canada is at 88%. And dominant tackles? England have 78 dominant tackles. Canada 46. So England traditionally wins the collision zone. This is how they impose structure. But can they dominate the collision if the Canadian carrier is already past them before the defense is set? The set piece is also a major advantage for the Red Roses. They have stolen 14 opposition lineouts to Canada's 6. This is a key area where England will look to disrupt Canada's possession and launch their formidable driving maul. Who are the key players that will navigate this clash of styles? For Canada, it starts with their captain, Sophie de Goody, playing at number 8. She is the engine of this team. Her ball carrying is essential to get Canada over the gain line, which is the first step in generating that quick ruck speed. Her direct style fits perfectly with that 1-1 carry-to-pass ratio we discussed. And we have to highlight their halfback, Justine Pelletier. Her ability to manage the tempo and deliver crisp service under intense pressure is the foundation of the Canadian attack. For the Red Roses, the focus is often on the finishers, but we need to look at the platform setters, the forwards, like Abby Ward and Amy Cockayne. Their work at the set piece and in the tight exchanges is what allows England to dominate territory. But the player I'm watching closest is England's centre, Meg Jones. I'm calling her the momentum controller. She is the emotional thermometer of this England team. And it's not just the tries she scores, it's the work rate, the defense, the decision making. In the semi-final, she secured 3 turnovers. That's massive for a center. New Zealand struggled in the semi-final partly because they missed key turnover specialists like Georgia Miller, for example. And it highlights exactly where England needs to attack Canada at the breakdown. If England is to win, they need to generate their own turnovers, slow that ruck speed down, be dominant, and be a menace at the breakdown. Also, try counter-rucking as much as they can. And this is something that Canada did very, very successfully against New Zealand. They out New Zealand, basically. And this is exactly what the Red Roses need to do. They don't need to out Canada. They just need to be their dominant self and play the Red Roses way. And I think Meg Jones is key to that. Where will this final be won and lost? There is a simple truth in rugby. If you lose the breakdown, you almost guaranteed to lose the game. So this brings us back to the central conflict. Can England stop the Canadian speed? England's entire defensive strategy is based on winning the collision. Those 78 dominant tackles. When you drive the ball carrier back, you force them to commit more players to the ruck and you slow the ball down. If England can turn that 1.5 second ruck into a 4 or 5 second ruck, Canada's attack is neutralized. It allows the Red Roses' defense to set, organize, and smother the flare. But if Canada can maintain their blistering speed and the direct carry style they showed in the semi-final, they bypass the English power game. They create the unstructured play where their offloading game can thrive. The key for Canada is to maintain that incredible fitness level for one more game. The other key area is the set piece. Canada must secure their own lineout. If England starts stealing the ball, as their 14 steals suggest they might, Canada will be starved of possession. England will utilize their kicking game to pin them back. Canada, conversely, should be brave. They should run the ball back using their superior evasion to break the chase line, rather than trying to engage in a kicking duel they're unlikely to win. We cannot ignore the narrative surrounding this final. The disparity in resources is vast. England is fully professional, centrally contracted, and centrally funded. They are the powerhouse, and with that comes the immense weight of expectation. They are playing at home at a sold-out Twickenham. For the Red Roses, anything less than lifting the trophy is a failure. That pressure can be suffocating in a final. And then you have Canada. This team's journey is pure inspiration. They had to crowdfund to cover basic costs, balancing full-time jobs with elite rugby. They have nothing to lose. They've already exceeded all expectations by beating the Black Ferns. Also, many Canadian stars play in the PWR in England, so they know the Red Roses intimately. They're not intimidated, but there is a potential danger for Canada. Did they already play their final? Beating New Zealand probably took an enormous emotional toll. Can they reset and reach that peak a second week in a row? I believe they can. This team hasn't been fueled by resources, it's been fueled by resilience and belief. That adversity has forged a bond that is increasingly and incredibly powerful. So, we come to the prediction. If you look at the traditional stats, the smart money is on England. Their defense is superior. Their set piece is absolutely dominant, and they are more clinical than any team in the world. They are a machine. But rugby isn't played on a spreadsheet. It's played on emotion, momentum, and tactical innovation. And right now, Canada is the team that's innovating. So I'm going with my heart this time because I believe we're witnessing something special. I am picking Canada. Here's why. England is carrying the burden of being the favorites. They looked vulnerable against France when the game became chaotic, and Canada is the master of chaos. The way Canada dominated the breakdown against New Zealand, winning the speed battle and the turnover battle 4-0, suggests they have the tools to neutralize England's power game. I believe their resilience forged through adversity gives them an edge in the high pressure moments of a final. But a counter argument would be that I'm hoping the Red Roses coaching staff have been planning for this from the outset. It shouldn't be a case of trying to defend a 1.5-second ruck speed just this week. It's going to be incredibly hard. So I'm assuming that this has already been their plan from the get-go. How can they slow down Canada's ruck speed and disrupt Canada and outmuscle Canada? If they can do that and they don't panic, I think the Red Roses have this in the bag. But I reckon it's going to be a lot more harder. I think this Canadian team is not going to go away. And think about what this means for the sport. If Canada wins, it changes everything. It sends a message to every so-called tier 2 nation that every team who is struggling for funding, every player told they couldn't compete with the professionals, it tells them that belief, tactical innovation, a smart coach, passion, and sheer willpower can overcome limitations in resources. This is the stuff of movies. It's a fairy tale ending that rugby needs. My prediction, Canada to edge England in an absolute classic by 5 to 10 points. This is going to be an incredible occasion. And I can't wait. Thank you so much for tuning in to Rugby from the Stands. Enjoy the World Cup final. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Share your thoughts on who you think will win the World Cup in the comment section below. Ciao.